This crashed MX5 was classed as a Category S by COPART, and I have won this car for £1,450. Luckily, I was the only bidder, and since then I have been working very hard in between my full-time job to try and get her back on the road. On my previous videos, we've already managed to sort out a lot of the things that needed doing. I've replaced the damaged crash bar, which I believe is the reason why the car was categorized as having structural damage. I've also got rid of the blown airbags. This was definitely the most challenging part so far, especially the passenger side. I've also swapped out the locked seatbelts, both the driver's side and the passenger side, and many other things as well. You are just gonna have to watch the previous videos. This car has truly taught me a lot. Most of the things that I have done here are pretty much self-taught and a lot of research. As you guys probably already know by now, I am not a mechanic. Most of the experiences I've done with cars are on my own, and we are so close to getting this car back on the road. But we have a problem. Bruh. For some reason, the passenger side windows now does not want to go down. The driver's side still works, but on the passenger side, nothing at all. I can see red lights, so I know there's power on here. So I feel like the problem is somewhere around there, because we have recently just taken it off on the previous video, so we're going to need to investigate. I have seen on Matt Armstrong's Porsche rebuild to make sure that the wing mirror's wire does not block the glass. That may well be the case. We do, however, have a bigger issue. On the previous video, we repainted all of the wing mirrors, and for some reason the paint is just not drying at all. So this is its current situation. I don't know if you can tell the scratches there. I can literally just run my finger on it. It's not fully drying. I've got the feeling it's because I didn't sand the previous paint all the way down, so I feel like that is the problem. So anyway, we're gonna have to take these off anyway to investigate why the window isn't going down. It's a little bit of a setback, it's a bit of a pain, but we're gonna do what we gotta do. I have just taken everything off. All of the wing mirrors are off. I've checked that the wiring wasn't blocking the glass, and it wasn't, so that wasn't the problem. I did, however, take the center console off again. I removed the electrical connection and then plugged it back in, and it seems to be working. This is the passenger side. I think it must have been just a loose connection. Perfect. Before she can truly be back on the road, she needs to look good. And one of the things that is letting her down are these rims. My rims are looking very worse for wear. It is looking very rusty. As you can see, there's a lot of these. The silver isn't even silvering anymore. It's the same situation here at the back. It's not as bad, but there is a bit of these like bubbling and a lot of these. I am using this full set of wheel repaint that you can buy from eBay. It comes with 3 silver paints, 1 primer and 1 lacquer. I started by giving the wheels a good clean first. I used an iron fallout remover to remove all of the iron deposits that have built up on the wheel. I let that sit for a couple of minutes to do its thing, and then I followed it with a snow foam and a good scrub. The cleaning didn't seem to have done a lot. There is still a lot of iron deposits on it. Instead of wasting my time trying to clean it all, I decided to just move on to sanding all of these down. When sanding, I used a 120 grit paper on the rough areas, followed by a 240 grit paper to smoothen it down. All the remaining areas I used a 400 grit paper and finished it with an 800 grit paper, ready for the next stage, which is priming. So the wheels are finally all masked off. So I masked up a bit of the front and then the same at the back as well. I put a little bit more tape on the tire wall so that obviously it doesn't get painted. The rest are all here. Same situation. I did end up using another can of primer as I was painting the barrel of the wheels as well, but I found that one coat of primer was sufficient, so I left it with that. Our rims are now all primed and they have been drying for, I'd say, a day or two, and it is now time to spray paint it. I started with the intricate edges of the rims first, making sure it was all thoroughly painted, and then I moved on to the flat areas. You'll find me going around the wheel a lot, as I found this to be the most effective way in making sure I get all of the areas of the rims painted. I ended up laying 3 coats of the silver paint to achieve a close enough of a perfect look. I left it to dry and then moved on to lacquering. I only ended up putting a layer of lacquer on the rims because one can was just not enough for all 4 rims. If I had another can of lacquer, I would have certainly laid a couple more layers on. While we wait for the rims to dry and the car is on the air, I took this opportunity to change the car's brake disc and pads. So that is one of the things that I had been planning to do because it's very rusty and sort of worn. I just wanted the car to have a full sort of new braking system before we take it onto the road. We will bleed the brakes, I'd say, a little bit later once the MOT is done and the car's back on the road. We'll do a full servicing. To remove the front caliper, there are 2 bolts that I needed to remove, and then I just used a cable tie to keep it suspended. The brake pads can now also be removed. I then removed the caliper mount, which is also secured by 2 bolts. I also took this opportunity to give all of the brake components a bit of a clean as well, while everything is off. And once the whole assembly is off, it should allow us to remove the brake disc.
Bruh.
Oh dear. And look at this, it has actually snapped.
Bruh.
I'm having no luck with these screws. I even moved into using an impact driver. Just a disclaimer, by the way, do not ever do this, don't use this at all. I thought I would have just loosened it up. I actually ended up going to the shop to buy this manual impact driver because this screw would just not budge. And this worked like an absolute magic. I was able to remove that screw within minutes. We've managed to remove the stubborn bolt without any damage, thankfully. So now the disc is off. Now that the discs are off, I then again made the most of this opportunity and decided to paint the stone guards. I did the same for the rear end as well. First, I got rid of the loose flaky rust, sanded it down to smoothen it, cleaned it, and then painted it with black Hammerite anti-rust paint. So the new brake disc I got from eBay. It came as a set, the fronts, the rears. My mum and dad actually sponsored this little build by purchasing us this brake disc, so thank you, mum and dad. So these discs actually came with the centerpiece painted, but I ended up repainting it all again just to make sure that it doesn't rust as quickly. Now it was just a case of putting everything back. I made sure to put a bit of anti-seize on the bolts so that it is easier to remove in the future. I then used this caliper rewind tool so that I can put the caliper over the brake pads. I also put a light layer of anti-seize on the brake pads contact areas to stop the caliper from sticking. That is now all of the disc brakes put on. I didn't end up changing any of the pads because they were fine. I could just use them up, and then obviously when they get worn out, I'll just put the new ones on. It is now finally time to put our newly painted wheels on. The rims are now looking so much better. I mean, there are still a bit of imperfections here and there. I could have sanded it down a little bit better, but I'm not that bothered about it. I'm pretty happy with how it came out, to be honest. One of the things that I wanted to change with MX5 as well are the bulbs, because it currently uses the common yellow lights. So I thought I'd buy myself some LED white lights, which is also quite convenient because one of the side lights or daytime running lights is actually out. So now would be a good time to change the light bulbs as well, because if we bring that to the MOT test center, that will not pass. Bought these lights from eBay as per usual for about £24. This was a very straightforward change, probably made a lot easier because I had the headlight off of the car. I removed the electrical connectors first, and then the old light bulb literally just pops out. And you're just going to put the new one in reverse order. So that's working fine. However, right hand side is not working. It turned out that I've just put the bulb the wrong way around. Who would have thought? It looked the same to me, so they're both working, so that's some good news at least. Finally, the wing mirrors can now go back in again. I sanded the wing mirrors to bare plastic, primed it, painted it and lacquered. And they have come out much better than the previous. They've dried properly at least. To put these back, the wiring goes in first, then secured it in place with a Torx bolt. I then fished out the wire on the other side and then reconnected the wires. Wing mirror test on the left hand side. That's working fine. Up and down. That's all good. Let's test out the right hand side. That's working fine as well. That's good. Once I was happy that the connections are all fine, I can now then secure the door cards back. Most of it was held by plastic clips, so a couple of slaps snaps it back in place. There was one screw on the door latch, one screw on the door handle, and another on the cup holder. We are so close to finishing this car. It is so surreal. So today we are going to be getting rid of the code on the car. We are getting the flashing airbag error on there. We are going to try and clear that, hopefully. So I bought this OBD reader, yeah, some sort of OBD reader from eBay for about £13, I think. Hopefully this is able to clear the airbag codes on the car. I guess we will see. I mean, that error is a little bit different. We've got to find some sort of way to fix that, because that is looking really bad. Here it is. I don't know why I'm so happy, but for a 13 quid item, hopefully it worked. Click diagnose. That's diagnosing now, and then let's drop down to erase codes. It actually says the vehicle has no fault codes. I don't know if you can see that. Bruh. I am actually having a slight problem with trying to clear the code, trying to do everything right, but it just does not seem to be clearing it. The airbag flashing is still there. If I scan the error codes, it says that there are no errors on there, so I'm not too sure. The OBD reader knows the car's VIN number, but I can't seem to erase the codes. I'm not too sure, maybe the reader isn't compatible. I'm also thinking whether I put everything back correctly. I'm not too sure, to be honest, or whether I needed to change the airbag ECU. I'm not sure. As far as I'm aware, you can just clear the code using an OBD reader, but other than that, I'm kind of stuck really. So we're just gonna have to move on and do other things instead. We are here today in Alloy Wizard in Brig, not to collect some alloys, but I actually ended up dropping my front bumper here for these guys to sort out. I was going to rattle can the front bumper, but I thought I wanted it to have a little bit more of a professional finish because it is going to be exposed. Everybody's going to see the front bumper. Here it is, and it is looking so nice. From what I've left them with, oh my gosh, they've done so well with this. So I don't know if you can remember, there was some damages here at the front. There's a line. That's all been sorted out now. You can't even see that anymore. And yeah, it's just looking so nice. I then reassembled the front bumper. I started with the fog lights, I actually resprayed these a while back as I didn't like the bare plastic look. These just clips back and with one screw that holds it in place. The headlight surrounds then goes on. It had a couple of guide pins, so it wasn't that difficult putting it back. These are held by a couple of rivets, and at the bottom where it used to be plastic welded, I just used a silicone adhesive to keep it in place. The top metal brackets then goes on. It has 3 pieces, and similarly these are held by a couple of rivets. This is where the bolts go when it is on the car. The last bit that needs to go on the front bumper is the grille. I am super excited for this. The stock grille for the MX5 are like slats, but I've decided to go for an aftermarket one. Hopefully this fits. I've never actually tried it on. Here it is. Yes sir, look at that. That is so much better. I got this grille from IL Motorsports in Germany for I can't remember. The grille installation was pretty straightforward. It was just a matter of lining it up and pushing it until it clips in. But we did come across more problems. I have just been looking around on the internet, so it seems that you have to buy the tow hook cover, the whatever these covers are, and then there's also a frame that surrounds all of this. That's why it looks a bit gappy. That would explain it, to be honest. So yeah, let's just do a quick purchase. Bruh. Now it was finally time to put the bumper back on. It was such a beautiful moment seeing the bumper back on the car since it has been off of it for so long. There was a couple of bolts at the top, a couple of bolts on the side near the wheel arch, 2 bolts at the front and several screws on the under tray, and the bumper is finally secured on. That car is looking so nice, I am not gonna lie. It feels so good to be here at this point with the car. We are so close to getting it done. Tell me you love me. I think we are gonna end the video there. I really hope you have been enjoying the content. If you have been sticking around for the rebuild, I just wanted to say thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. However, if you are new here, I only have one favor to ask from you. Please click that subscribe button, drop a like and drop a comment. I guess 3 favors. Thank you again, and I will see you on the next one.